Good morning everyone, welcome to the first Rapid 5D webinar, and we're going to look at 2D and BIM working hand in hand. Thank you all for coming. First of all, I'll just let you know a little bit about Rapid 5D. We are a group of experienced BIM and VDC consultants, and we use the latest technologies from Trimble, so things like Vico Office, to maximise BIM working and to help our clients really achieve their full potential with BIM. We offer that in the form of advice and guidance, but also training and work materials. So just to cover what we're going to go through today, first of all I'm going to start with some 2D revision review tools, so just comparing two versions of a document. Then I'm going to look at using preset templates to do a 2D takeoff from a drawing. Then we're going to do that thing that you might have seen from the preview image, which is mapping 2D drawings into a 3D environment. Then we're going to move to taking off from photos, which is a pretty new, unique thing, and other non-drawing data. So you might not have your drawings with your 3D model, but you've got something there. Then we're going to look at putting the 3D model, overlaying that into that 2D, 3D hybrid environment, and then also linking that to a dynamic cost plan and quantity mapping. Towards the end of the session, at the end, I'll go through and look through some questions. So as we're going through the webinar, there's a little questions box in the GoToWebinar toolbar. If you could just type in your questions as we're going, and then we'll go through them at the end. Okay, so we're going to jump into Vico Office now. So for those of you who've used Vico Office before, this might be familiar. For those of you who haven't, at the minute we're in the document control view. So this is a list of the PDFs and any 3D models that I might have associated with this. And it also has some revision control. So you can see I've got both revision 2 and revision 3 of this floor plan. So to start with, I'm just going to do a comparison of those two drawings. The first tool I'm going to use for the comparison is a slider tool. I can just quite quickly slide from left to right between the two drawings with the revision 2 on the left and revision 3 on the right, and then I can also just zoom into an area which I find particularly interesting and then just pan across between the two. So that's one tool. The other tool we can do is the highlight tool, which is basically redlining a drawing for you. This is all automatic, so it's just taken those two drawings and it's noticed that red are things that have been removed and green are things that have been added to the drawing. And then I can come in here and just add a little cloud, make a note, do some annotations. And then I can print that either to a printer or as a PDF. So for those of you who do this sort of thing, this revision control on a regular basis, you know that this can be quite long-winded, but Vico really just does as much of it automatically as possible for you. So that's the first thing we can do with 2D drawings. The next thing we're going to do is do a takeoff, do a manual takeoff. So we're going to load up the latest revision of the drawing first. And then I'm going to switch to my takeoff pad, which is where I do all of the takeoff. So I've decided to start with, I'm just going to measure that ground floor slab. So first thing I want to do is create an item, ground floor slab. And then I'm going to use one of my pad templates that I've set up. So this is a set of rules and formulas which allow me to easily fill in things like volume and rebar tonnage just by measuring one thing. So I'm going to start by measuring the top surface area, and then from there I'm going to get some volumes and some reinforcement as well. So if you've used any tool similar to this in the past, it's pretty simple. You just pick your points based on the vectored PDF, and I can be as accurate or as rough as I like with this, just for the demo. You can also pick existing lines in the drawing rather than snapping to points. So I've taken that area, and that's come to £316.74, 360 metres squared, sorry. And then from there as well, I'm going to take the perimeter. So far, I've only done one bit of taking off, and I've got a top surface area, I've got a perimeter, I've used the thickness from the template of 0.25 metres, which has given me a volume. I've got a reinforcement ratio of 160 kilos a metre cube, which has given me 12.6 tonnes of reinforcement, and I've also got my formwork in there as well. If I adjust this shape, just pull that corner out, all of those quantities are going to change and reflect that, because it's all formula driven. And then just move it back again. The other thing I can do is, and it's similar to a cut and shuffle, I can start to adjust my thickness. Let's say this is actually 0.3 meters thick. That's going to affect my volume, and I can change my density to 150 kilos, and that's affecting my tonnage. So very simple. The other thing I can do just very quickly is I can deduct space from there. So for instance, for the spiral staircase down to the basement, I can just come in here with this tool and quickly just snap some points around there to create a cutout. And just as I complete that, watch that top surface area go from 316 meters squared down to 314 meters squared. So the next thing we're going to look at, we've done a bit of a takeoff, is, for those of you who saw the screenshot, is mapping those 2D drawings in a 3D space. The reason for doing this is it helps give people a bit of context. So there's that 2D drawing. Just spin it around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the mezzanine floor and I'm going to map it at an elevated plane hovering above this ground floor. So first of all, make the plane, and I'm going to put it at 11 meters elevation. Just rename it. So that's created a plane. It's a little bit big at the minute, so I'll just take that boundary down slightly. So you can see that plane's just hovering there above. And then all I've got to do is take that drawing and drop it onto the plane. I can drop more than one drawing onto the same plane, and I can drop a drawing onto more than one plane. You can see these drawings don't really line up at the minute. They're all a bit out of whack. So what I'm going to do is align them. The way to do that is I pick 2 points from my new drawing, and I pick the same 2 points from my original drawing, and it's just going to map it on top. Just rotate around so I can get a better look. I can map a 2D drawing to another 2D drawing, or I can map a 2D drawing to a 3D model as well. Right, so let's just move that. So now when I rotate round, you should be able to see that those drawings are sitting directly on top of each other in space where they would be. So someone who's never seen this project before can start to get a bit more context. I can look at two drawings together so that I can see. I'm just going to change the transparency there. I can look at two drawings together at the same time so I can see maybe someone missed something off. And then there, I've just added the photos that I was speaking about earlier, those elevation photos. And in the exact same way I did it before, I just picked 2 points from the photo and 2 points from the drawing, and it's mapped them to a vertical plane. So the next thing we're going to do is, in the same way we did a takeoff from a 2D drawing, we're going to do a takeoff from a photo. So this could be a renovation or an existing wall that we've got to deal with, and we want that traceable quantity, that thing that's key to BIM, finding out where we got it from, when we did it, and that's what this is going to give us. So first of all, I've got to load up the drawing. So I'm going to use the street elevation for this one. So I'm going to go to version 2 of that photo, load it up, and these were just photos as JPEGs that I've printed as PDFs to get them here. And then back to my takeoff pad. So back to that familiar setting where we're doing the takeoff. and I'm going to call this pointing area. So I'm just going to measure them. Perhaps there's a bit of pointing work that needs to be done. And unlike before where I had a template for concrete slabs because I build them all the time, this time I'm going to create a custom template because I've never done pointing before. So, but then a future project I could use this template again. And I'm just going to pick those points again. Bring it all the way across. So now I've got that area, and again it's a traceable area. I can go back, and same way again, I can modify that. Next thing I'm going to do is I've decided there's a few bricks here that I need to need some work done, so I'm just going to call them problem bricks, and I'm going to count them. And in the same way that that 2D area was mapped, I'm just going to map a few points. So I'm just going to do a count. I'm just going to pick a few bricks. So I've got 6 bricks. I know which drawing I took them from, which revision I took them from, and when I took them from. So that's that timestamp that you can see there. So now I've done a bit of that takeoff, I'm going to go back to my 3D view. And let's say we've been at stage 2, Reba stage 2 of this project. We've got some 2D drawings, we've got some rough outlines, but then someone pops up and they say, I've got a model. Might not be a good model, but it's enough to get some quantities, say bulk quantities for concrete or brickwork or something like that. So we've got a model. Luckily, all our 3D space still counts, and it maps it directly to the model. So I can use any one of those drawings to cut that model in a section, and as long as I turn off capping I can see a bit better. If I view here, you can see I'm taking a simplified model and then adding detail from a drawing, so I can really combine the disciplines to get a full understanding of what's going on with this project. I can also do some visual analysis to just check that the drawings do match up to the model. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to activate that model. What that does is that lets Vico go away and start quantifying the model. So I've quantified the drawings manually, but it's going to quantify the model automatically. And now if I go to my takeoff, I've got those 2D takeoffs that I did manually before, that top surface area, that perimeter, that thickness that I measured, and those problem bricks in that pointing area, but as well I've got quantities from the model sat right next to it, almost in a non-discriminatory list, so it doesn't care where I got it from, it just knows that it's part of the takeoff. So I can see those windows, I can see those exterior walls, and I can see those interior doors just down in the basement there. So now we've got all these quantities, they're all traceable, they're all dynamic. I'm going to throw them into a cost plan. So not only can I throw them into a cost plan, I can also use those quantities for planning, for program management, and also for work package management as well. But that's a bit more of a complex subject, so perhaps we can go into that another time. So I'm going to jump into my cost plan. And then I'm just going to very quickly add a bit of a rudimentary bill here. It's not going to be great, but I just want a few things in there. I might just do a bit of the superstructure, so take the slab, and there may be some, maybe I'll take that pointing area, and I'll also take some windows. And I'm just going to add some code to that as well. And then all I have to do now is drag and drop those quantities into my cost plan. So that 314 meters squared for the slab, those 7 windows, and actually I'm going to add these other 13 windows here as well, because you can combine multiple takeoffs into one bit of the cost plan. And then I'll take that pointing area as well. Ooh, not the brick. So all that's left to do now is put a price against everything. So I'll just come in here. Everything in this cost plan can be played with. We've got 3-point estimating, we've got margins, markups, anything like that. But for now we're just going to put a base unit cost in and then activate the assembly to get us a total price of £18,858. So we remember that, 18,858. Because what we're going to do now is go back to some of those traceable quantities that we took off, and we're just going to adjust them slightly. So if I go back to my takeoff, and then I load up that ground floor plan, there's that shape that I drew before. I'm just going to grab it and I'm going to make it massive just for the sake of having a bit of an impact on the cost plan. And then I'll probably also take that pointing area that I did on the photo as well. So let me just grab that. And I'm just going to make that huge as well. Let's make it the whole building face. Okay, so all I have to do now is zip back to my cost plan, break that open, and you can see that 18,858, I believe, has gone up to 21,229. I can run reports to export in PDF or Excel to isolate where we went, where we had price changes due to these changes in either the model or my manual takeoff. So I can get to the bottom of where those changes came from, and I can also issue them in PDF format to my client or to my subcontractors if I've already divided it up into subcontract packages. Right, so I'll just turn through to the questions now. And we'll jump through. Let me just have a look through some of these. Thank you for all of those who've submitted questions. Yeah, so we've got one actually. I think you noticed when I was spinning around that 3D model perspective. Vico Office does use perspective. We can switch that off in Vico Office so that we don't get that confused. So we can directly see on top of 2 different drawings. We don't get that weird perspective shift. So for anyone who's worried about that. We've got one. Are there any templates for bill of quantities or cost plans, such as Uniclass, NRM, SMM7? Yes, you noticed that I did a manual cost plan when I went into the cost planner mode. We can actually create existing projects with existing libraries. At Rapid 5D, we actually have a lot of the standard British construction libraries available, and we can use those to much more quickly create that cost plan and really speed up the process. So you'll find once you start working in this sort of BIM environment, every couple of months you'll be able to look back and just see those leaps that you made forward in using these efficiencies. Someone here has mentioned file formats in Vico Office. Yep, so I mentioned for the 2D it's PDF, so any type of PDF, and line-based PDF is vectorized, so I can pick those snap points. We can also bring in terms of 3D, IFC, which is your standard construction format. We can also go direct from Revit, ArchiCAD, Sketchup, and Tekla as well, which is another Trimble software.
Can I share this information with people who don't have the software? Yes, you can. We can output, so where I mentioned the reports before, Vico has a very powerful reporting function that we can output to PDF, Excel, and we can really take any of that data from inside Vico and push it out into the report engine. So we can share, you get access to all your data then, so you can just output that back out again. We have got one question from the guys at Interserve actually. They've just asked me where I got this idea from, so I should give them some credit. I was at a training session at Interserve in Birmingham, and one of them did ask how they could use photos with BIM, and that's sort of where this whole thing got kicked off from. Someone else has asked, if I'm doing refurb work, can I mix and match quantities from drawings, 3D and prelims? Okay, so in my cost plan, right, so yes, if you've got a 3D drawing and you've got some 2D drawings, you could do a takeoff, but you don't have to use all the information from every aspect. So you could take a few quantities from your model, so say bulk quantities of your concrete, walls, and then you can take some things from your drawing. So say you do a count of the FFE in the drawing, or you do some, well, like I did in the photo, you take some existing counts, and then map that into the cost plan, and then you can apply manual quantities as well. So you've got prelims, you've got craneage, you can just add that into the cost plan as manual quantities. Yes, someone has asked as well, do we have any plans to do webinars in the future? I do have another webinar scheduled for Thursday the 10th of March there at the bottom of that PowerPoint presentation. It's going to be at 9 o'clock in the morning again. If anyone's got any recommendations, if they want to see anything, please drop us a line in the questions or send something to info@rapid5d. We're going to start to do these every month, so we're going to look to see what the market's sort of after and work to that. We're also, as you can see from the PowerPoint there, we're going to be sponsoring the RICS BIM conference in London on the 25th of February. Also IT showcase events in Glasgow and Newcastle in March, so feel free to come along to those if you want to have a chat with us. We're always open to talking. And also we're sponsoring the Urbano Build BIM breakfast in London on the 25th of February, and Anne Kemp from Atkins is going to be delivering a talk there, and then there's a bit of a sort of breakfast chat and networking event afterwards. Those are really good for getting to know a bunch of different people in the industry, so I'd recommend going to that. Can a company branded cost plan report be produced? Yes, from Steve. Yes, it can. We can take that report writing function and drop in things like we can customize it with your own logos, your project address, the date, the person who produced the bill. So we can really customize those templates and output whatever you like. And the interface, once we develop those templates, is really simple to add that stuff in. Can I compare an existing client's bill with the quantities in BIM? Right, yes, we have a function where we can bring in bills into the cost plan area and bring in existing quantities. So let's say you've got, if you're a general contractor, at least you've got your client's bill of quantities and you've got some drawings and some models, and you need to submit your tender in their format, but you want to check your quantities against the 3D model. So you can map those quantities in the same way I did, and then we can help you develop reports which allow you to then compare, once you've plumbed your rates in, what your total would have been had you stuck with the client's quantities, what it would have been now you're using your BIM-based quantities, and work from there. Yep, so the last question now, someone has asked if this will be able to watch again. Yes, I do have a recording of the video with the questions as well, and I'll send out an email in the next couple of days to everyone who was invited and everyone who signed up with any extra questions that people have asked, because we get quite a few in, that we can answer, and perhaps a bit more evidence to those of you who asked some quite tricky, sort of the longer-winded questions. Again, if you've got big questions, please drop us a line at info@rapid5d.com, or our phone numbers on the website. You can talk to one of the consultants here, and we'll really help you try and work through your questions. Okay, so that's everything for today. I'll leave this stuff up on the screen for a minute or so just so you can see those events that we're doing and that next webinar and have a look at any of those links. So thank you very much for your time. It's been really interesting, the first one we've done. So yeah, thank you, and I look forward to talking to you in March.